Welcome back. Today, we're going to be looking at brakes, or I guess more accurately, a lack of brakes. And we are once again working on my 96 F-150. It's a project I recently picked up. We did one intro video on it that has done really well, and it's picked up a lot of subscribers. So if you're here because of that truck, welcome to the channel, and thank you. I've done some shopping for some brake parts. I went to my local parts store, and surprisingly, they were about twice the price of Rock Auto for all this stuff, and they only had a half of it in stock, so I just ordered and saved money. Might not always work, but it did this time. And here's what we picked up. First up, brand new master cylinder. I don't know how long the old one has been on there. I'm guessing it's still original. It appears to be leaking around the vacuum booster, so we're just going to replace it. I found the cheapest manual hubs I could possibly find because I'm missing one. So we'll be putting those on. Both calipers, one and two. Yeah, both. That's what two means. Two brake hoses, which you'd think would be the same, but they're not. On the driver's side of this vehicle, the line from the master cylinder actually comes into the hose right here. So you've got to have this one. They're not interchangeable. As you can see, passenger side does not have that feature. So we got those. Oh. Okay, I didn't order this. I've been missing it for about 2 or 3 days. Apparently it fell in the box. That happens. Also, I picked up a set of brake pads for it. And since there is no line going from the master cylinder down to that hose right now, I picked up a piece of 3/16 line, and we'll have to make our own. We're going to start over here. I don't have any lines that will go back up in here. I've got to use the stupid rubber and plastic plugs that came with this, so it's probably going to leak everywhere and make this pointless. But we're going to give it a try. Once you've got fluid in here, all we're going to do is put a fairly decent sized screwdriver in here, something that's not going to mar the end of this. We're going to push and watch bubbles come out. And then when no more bubbles come out, that's when we're done. It's really hard to see bubbles when you have the stupid brake level sensor thingy in here. This is nearly pointless. Sounds like burrito night. Okay, well, we're going to call that a big fail. I don't think I have any actual threaded fittings for that. I know this is really organized, but I just can't find any of them. So, moving on. I guess we'll just let this master cylinder sit here and think about what it's done while we work on something else. It's a little hard to see, but inside the hub you can see that ring that has the 4 slots in it. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's called a hub nut, and there's a special socket for that. And on a Ford, looks like this. Luckily, I already have that. If not, can it be done without that special socket? Maybe, but it's a lot more harder. More harder. It's difficult. Don't do it. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's ways around everything, but doesn't mean you need to. And we'll try to put things down in the order in which we took them off. Next up is this weird little washer. It has lots of holes in it. That made a cool sword sound. Okay. And this one is not nearly as tight as the outside. The outside is usually, I don't know, 150 foot-pounds probably or more. The inside one is sort of like your traditional 2-wheel drive outer nut where you're going to go snug, seat everything, back it off a little bit, and put a cotter pin in. That's kind of what this inner one's like. And see how it has that tang on it? This keeps it from spinning because this stays in a specific spline, master spline, right here, and then this cannot turn because it is locked into that master spline. Right there. Hey-oh! Well, those bearings are completely dry. No one ever packed these. This is why you take stuff apart. You don't know what the last person did. It doesn't look like this has been run. It looks like it was basically just set on there. It should be okay. The spindle looks all right. Yeah. Should these have nuts on them? Yes. Yes, that should. Why don't those have nuts? Now I need to find 5 nuts to go onto these studs, which are basically like wheel studs, but on the inside. So it's driven in from the backside and splined, and then these should hold this. And they are, but currently they're probably only holding them on via rust, which is prevalent. Anywho, let's find some nuts. Here's what I found out of my stash of loose nuts. I've got 3 completely different types of nuts, but they are all the same thread. So that's perfect for what we're doing. Alright, well, I'm happy enough with that to continue. Let's pack some bearings. And there we go. Just as messy as I thought it would be. We just want the grease to ooze out the top of these bearings. There we go. I got grease oozing out the whole thing. Now we can put it back together. Wait, did this thing even have a grease seal on the inside? It does not. So now we have to go to the parts store, because once this inner bearing goes in, there's a seal that goes on top that keeps all the grease from popping out this way and getting all over, basically, everything over there. All right. Wheel seal. Parts store. Yay. Update. None of my local stores have this wheel seal in stock. I can have it in the morning. So we're going to move on and do something else, like maybe the master cylinder or the brake hoses. But I do need to at least sort of temporarily put this back together so I don't lose parts. There we go. Now I have to pick up my nuts, and we'll move over to the other side. Oop, plastic, eco-friendly. Be careful when you're picking up your nuts that you don't scrape them too hard on the concrete. That can cause problems later on. Let's go do something more fun. I guess we might as well spray these down with some Freol first. Doesn't say freeze most, so that means these are coming off no matter what. That seems like enough. Not too bad, however, there are definitely signs that things are not the greatest here. That protected paint really did a lot. Good thing they did that. Yeah. This is just like on all the suspension brackets. That really helps a lot. It's going to be full of plenty of air, and we're going to be bleeding this thing for days when we get to that point. Timber! Nailed it. I've never, ever been super good at making these. But when I take my time, sometimes I make ones that don't leak. And we'll see what we get at the end of this. Probably nothing good. And there you go. That's just about as bad a double flare as I can make. That looks like that might actually seal. Let's go put this into the master cylinder, and then we'll sort of bendy things, maybe. A little bit. I just bent up a 90 on this just to get us started, so we can at least aim this down towards the outside of that. Not sure it's going to seal, but we'll find that out later. Yep, that's not great. Temporary fix. There we go. Now on the back side of this hose is the line that goes directly to the passenger side. I don't know if I can get you in there to see it, but right there, that line's to the passenger side, and I'm going to try to save that. Otherwise, I need to buy more line. So it's crucial that I save that. It is a 3/8. It is the same price. I'm twisting the line. That's not great. It broke free of the line. We're good. Got it. Okay. Now, we can just beat the crap out of that and take it off somehow. Now, that was good. Perfect. Look at that. So we need our hard line that we just made to match up to here with some careful bending. Before we do that, let's put this caliper on so we can put the other end of this hose on there. So once we actually connect the two, then it's done. And something I've just noticed about this ruined caliper, that's the bleeder screw. It's on the bottom. You're not going to get any air out like that. This is the one for the passenger side because the bleed screw needs to be on top so the air can get out. Geniuses. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Wow, actually, those pads are in really good shape. Should I leave them? I did buy new. We'll put new on, but there's nothing wrong with those. I will save that. I'm going to put a little bit of brake Siliglide on everything. And on this one, the inner shoe is the one that does not have the clip on it. This backing is completely flat. Outer shoe, or outer pad, not shoe, whatever, has this clip that clips onto the caliper. There we go. And if you're into it, now would be the time to put some disc brake quiet on the back of these pads. We're going to do it because we can, and I have it. Don't spray yourself in the face. All right, we'll slide our new caliper into place. Looky here, the bleeder's on top. That's because this is for the driver's side. You gotta go past the clips on the outside pad, just like that. We're gonna have one copper washer that goes between the bolt and the top of this, one that goes underneath right here, and this lip goes outside here on this machine surface. All right. How close is that? Are we better? Well, that's close enough for government work. We can force this thing back into position now. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Look at that. There we go. No more leaks. And we need to find a clip to hold this in place. We have driver's side. And this driver's side bearing has not been apart, which is why I didn't worry about packing it or anything, because that's the original hub. So there's no way that there's not grease in here. And it's smooth and quiet. This side, brake hose hammer. Perfect. There we go. Now, we're going to do something a little bit different on this side. Since I have to take this rotor off when I get a new wheel seal, I don't want to put the caliper and everything on. I'm going to go ahead and put the caliper onto the hose so we don't leak anymore. Then we're just going to hang that up on a coil spring. All right. That's not going anywhere. Day 2, almost done. In the 1990s, Ford did some interesting things with wheel seals. If you notice, this is 2 pieces. This is the one that goes on the back of the hub. This is more like a dust seal, and we'll get to that in a minute. First, I need to undo what I did to keep all this from getting filthy. Luckily, it didn't rain last night, but it looks like it's supposed to rain on me today, and the temperature's also dropped into the low 30s, so maybe we'll just call that sleet or snow if it happens. Okay, this inner bearing is still in the way. There we go. Just wipe the grease on your clothing. It'll be fine. It comes right out. This is a dust seal. This goes onto the spindle small end first, so the small end is going to fit on this surface right here. This is where the inner bearing goes. Outer bearing goes here. And that's going to go just like that. Now, we'll go ahead and put the rotor back on. Just like that. Since this thing was so dry, we want to make sure that we've got plenty down in the center of that. So as it gets warm, it doesn't go dry or run out everywhere. Outer bearing. And then we need to get the first of the spindle nuts on there. And this is going to be the one that has that metal tang on it. That is your inner one, and that tang has to face outward. We'll get it started by hand, and then we'll get the spindle nut socket. We're going to go to 50 foot-pounds first. Then back it off 90 degrees. There we go. Then I believe it's between 15 and 20 foot-pounds. I don't know if you can hear that, but 15 foot-pounds. Next, our holy washer. You can see the tang is in that hole right there. And if we didn't do that, it wouldn't sit flush. And by the time you actually went to put your manual hubs on, they would be sort of cattywampus or whopper-jawed, depending on cattywampus or whopper-jawed. And it wouldn't sit right. It wouldn't seal. It would probably come flying off, and this would come off down the road, and then you'd be a three-wheel drive, and nobody wants that. Now we're going to put this outer hub nut on, and this one is the one that has no tang or dimple or whatever the hell you want to call it, I guess. I don't know. But this is the one that's going to be torqued down a lot more. Maybe 120. I don't know. I'm kind of tired. There we go. Before we move on to brakes, let's go ahead and put one of the manual hubs on. The one that goes on this side would probably be a good idea. You're going to need the actual manual hub cover, big snap ring, little snap ring, and hub assembly itself. So this is going to go on like that. And a snap ring installation. It's exciting stuff, I gotta tell you. But I really hope that we are to the point of this snapping onto that shaft. Now, gotta do the outer lock ring, which goes here. And this one you don't need snap ring pliers for, but you can use them just as pushers. There we go. Everything is set there. I'm sure there's a torque spec for these. I don't know what it is. And they only gave me a tiny Allen wrench, so, you know, how tight could I possibly make them? Lock. Free. Now we gotta finish up the brake job. And there we go. That looks just like the driver's side. All right, now we gotta bleed these. I think I'm gonna gravity bleed them, which is really the only way I can do it right now because I'm by myself. So it may take a while, and I'll get back to you. Everything seems to be bleeding nicely. We're gonna let this go for just a little bit and get all the air out of the system. One thing to remember when you're gravity bleeding, keep the cap off the master cylinder. If you don't, it's gonna create a vacuum or low pressure area here between the cap and the fluid, and no fluid is gonna come out of your wheel cylinders or your calipers, and you're gonna think that you've got some sort of blockage somewhere, and really, it's because you forgot to leave the cap off. Also very important when you're gravity bleeding, keep an eye on your fluid level so you don't reintroduce air into your system. All right, here's the brake pedal. And if you look up top here to the brake pedal pivot, that's an awful lot of just rust from sitting that's on that brake pedal pivot. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna spray that down with some Freol and let that sit. Hopefully that'll free up. That's what Freol does, right? And while we let that Freol do its thing on the pedal pivot, what I've also done is I've gone from the pedal up to this bolt here with kind of a light strength carburetor return spring, and that'll just make that pedal come all the way back up until the Freol works through all that rust. Problem solved. All right, everybody, it started raining on me today, and since I haven't fixed the wipers and the windshield's filthy and it's completely untested, we're not going to test drive it today, but tomorrow should be a better day, and we'll take this thing out on the road for the first time in over a decade, hopefully. All right, welcome back to day 3. It is the perfect day for a test drive. Weather's in the mid-50s, nice and sunny. Let's go ease this thing around the block for the first time in over a decade. It's still got a miss, so we're running on 7, but maybe that injector will clean up. Brake pedal feels decent, I guess. I mean, it just stopped. This is literally going to be like 2 to 3 minutes around my block. That's all we got time for right now. Well, the alignment's way off. Although, still seems to be doing okay. Oh, that miss is very noticeable when you hit the gas pedal. I'm staying in the neighborhood right now because if it's going to do something stupid in the first minute or so, I'd like it to do it on a residential street where I can park it and come get it later. One other thing I forgot to check is I did not retorque the lug nuts. Hopefully they stay on there. Overall, for sitting for a decade, this thing is doing fantastic. Kickdown works. Doesn't do much with 7. Probably doesn't do much with 8, but it did work. And we're back. All right, everybody, we eased it around the block. The brakes did work, a little squishy. We should have checked the differential fluid. That's on the to-do list. I forgot to retorque the lug nuts. We really need to do that before one of those tires falls off. The alignment is a little bit off, and it still is missing. Also, I have no clue how much fuel is in it. I don't trust that gauge yet. So now it's just a whole bunch of little things left to make this thing a daily driver. Oil change, wiper blades, things like that. And we're going to have ourselves a really nice mid-90s Ford truck. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more on this truck, and I'll see you next time.